I'm here today joined with Tarry Shebasta, founder of TruPayments LLC out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Mike.
Tell us more about TruPayments and what impact your software and products are making on the market and where you fit in the automotive industry today.
That's a big question because of 31 years in the industry. There's a lot that has gone on over those years, but TruPayments is a technology company. We're focused on everything from marketing to shopping to digital retailing, and those are three components that our technology addresses in the marketplace. I started the original company 31 years ago, so I've been in the business for a long time.
Sure.
I've seen a few things, so we know a few things, but having that experience over the years has given us the ability to really understand the marketplace along the way, and be able to create technology that we know from personal experience as a dealer, a lender, that consumers will embrace and actually use.
Well, that's great. And that's one of the things that we've done on the AutoTech Effect is share subject matter expertise of how we digitally transform the automotive industry from the paper documents we've used from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, really. How we sell, how we finance, how we protect, how we service vehicles. So as digital retailing has become an enormous, large buzzword, and we know that means a lot of things to different people.
Right.
Tell us more about TruPayments and the tangibility of your application and what you're focused on for consumers and how they take their purchase journey.
Right, and so as you mentioned, the digital retailing is a buzzword right now that is definitely out there in the industry that dealers are trying to get their head around. The focus, though, for digital retailing, the way we see it, is transaction, meaning digital retailing starts when I raise my hand and say, I want to buy that car. The disconnect that what TruPayments, we call it bridging the gap between marketing, because you'll have marketing that drives the traffic to the dealer's website.
Right.
But then what happens? Digital retailing is being marketed as a conversion tool. Like, hey, this traffic is going to come to the website, and we're going to convert that through digital retailing. Unfortunately, most people that are going to dealer websites, they're still not sure of what to buy.
Right.
So if you're not helping them figure out what car to buy, digital retailing is not going to help you, right? So TruPayments has kind of what we call bridging that gap between the marketing piece, driving that traffic, to the digital retailing and the shopping in between there, because that's where most of what we see is where the consumer spends most of their time. Digital marketing, 10%, 20% maybe. Digital retailing, the transaction piece, 10, 20%, but the middle parts, the 60 to 80%, that the consumer's just trying to figure out what to buy.
Sure. And I think you brought up a very important point. When consumers are hitting either third-party sites or they're hitting dealer websites, they find the right vehicle for them and their family. They're interested now. TruPayments has tools to help them really see how they could purchase this vehicle.
Right. So, give you an example. This is a problem that we look at solving. And if you look at most consumers, it's, I want to buy a sport utility. I want to spend $400 a month. Not sure exactly what my credit is. And I'm not really concerned what type of vehicle, because today there's really not a bad vehicle out there.
Sure.
Not a bad make, you know. So I'm open to any make. And I have a trade-in. And I need and I have a loan on that. So how do all those pieces, and tell me what I can buy for $400 a month, and I need to buy a sport utility? It could be new or used. I don't really know. I don't care really too much. So we're able to take all of that question and all those pieces to that question, which includes credit, all the dealer inventory, all of the finance lease programs, rates, rules, guidelines, and churn all of that to produce a list of vehicles that they can actually know that they can buy
with the payment parameters
they set.
Wow. Well, and that's a valuable process, and not only time saving, but giving a consumer a tangible number to give them the idea of what they might be able to buy that vehicle for. So
Right, and it's not just a guesstimate; it's a
sure,
real number based upon real credit. So I
right.
think we call that credit first versus credit last.
Right. So it's more than just maybe a loan calculator. This is truly taking a deal structure
Hmm.
essentially and giving the consumer who's maybe upcycle in their purchase process at this point, a really candid view as to what they can buy that vehicle for in that inventory, and for the economics that are involved.
Yeah, their buying power.
Great.
Mhm.
So you said you started early on as a lender and building some of this technology in IP. What brought you to TruPayments is in its current state today?
So yeah, again, as starting out as a lender,
Hmm.
being able to transact online for a number of years. Well, we built our own loan origination platform, loan origination system. We powered eBay Motors Finance Center for a number of years, from 2008 for a few years. And what that gave us was the ability to understand digital retailing. Back then, it was PDF contracts. It wasn't
Sure.
e-contracting, but we virtually did everything from exchanging messaging with the consumer, the shopper, to PDF contracts, to uploading their license, insurance, all the documents supporting documents that we needed to create the contract. So giving us that real ability, the real experience of doing that, it enabled us to create the technology that we could then work with dealers and offer to them and let them take advantage of that same product and technology that we created for ourselves. So TruPayments is the company our technology company that we set up to kind of work with dealers, lenders, because it's not just dealers that we work with. We
Sure.
work with credit unions, same thing. And so instead of one dealer and many lenders, it's one lender with many dealers.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So credit union members, anybody that's using financing can say, okay, well, I want to use my credit union financing. Show me what I can buy using my credit union. And what's great about that is that independent lenders, non-captives, the problem out there in the industry right now is there's incentives and rebates that apply to non-captive financing.
Hmm.
And if you look at those incentives and rebates and compare and using independent lending like a credit union, compare that to a captive where they may have discount finance, maybe 0%
Sure.
and no rebate.
Right.
But if you compare that, the payment, right, that's what we're focused on, it can be lower with an independent lender than it can be with a captive
Right.
for the same term.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
So you're able to take a dealer's inventory and promote that inside your platform, multiple dealers, or you can actually take a lender and expose them to a dealer network. So you're looking as a two-sided marketplace effectively for that.
Right.
Great.
Yep.
Our audience is full of people within the automotive industry that have different influences throughout the buying transaction process. If I'm an automotive dealer, whether it's independent or franchise, and I want to embrace digital retailing, where would you consult them in starting to understand how to do it, where to go, and how they would apply digital retailing to their store and their inventory?
Right. So the focus would be more on credit first. So
Okay.
because everything starts with credit. If you look at digital retailing where you let the customer raise their hand and say, I want to buy that car, and I think my credit score is this. And then they kind of work through the transaction, the deal structure, and all of that. And they find out that, okay, I get to the dealership and things aren't the same as what I built online. So dealers have to look at not just duplicating what they're doing offline to online, okay? Because that model and that process doesn't take advantage of technology, right? Because if you look at most digital retailing that's being promoted, it's credit last. It's like build all this like they do at the dealership. Customer comes into the dealership, oh, what do you want to spend? And I think my credit's this, and you start getting, but you don't get to the credit till the very end. And I've sat through dealerships and and listening to salespeople talk to customers, and it could be anything from credit or trade equity. It can also kill a deal.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time. So the thought, as far as dealerships should look at, not necessarily just duplicating what they're doing offline, online, but how can we use technology to really expedite it through the buying process to the dealership once they get to the online to offline. Should be as the same. It's not. It shouldn't be. I do this and then I get to the store and it's different.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what their credit is. The other thing that dealers really need to understand is that the payments you're quoting without knowing who the customer is, you're limited by the OEMs in MAP pricing, minimum advertised pricing, that they have to abide by.
Sure.
So if you're not able to even use your best pricing to create that payment, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Versus with Credit First, we have a one-on-one with that customer. We can then use whatever pricing the dealer, they could give that car away if they wanted to.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So then we're getting into real pricing, real credit that creates a real deal. And that's what the dealers really need to focus on, is making sure that what they're doing online is really truly going to be the same as what the customer gets when they get into the dealership.
You know, we've studied retail outside of the automobile industry and seeing the transformation that many brick and mortar stores have come through to be more of an online retailer or a hybrid e-tail, fulfillment like like an Amazon approach, or even something like IKEA. You can do everything online at IKEA and just show up with your car and they put it all in your car for you.
Right.
It's the advent now of the Carvanas and the Teslas that have an automated process. What you're saying really is to provide not only transparency through this process, but that when the consumer gets to your brick and mortar store, they are getting the same treatment that they got online.
Yep.
And that there's no differentiation between what was presented to them there and what we're doing is reinforcing that transparency, which builds trust and loyalty.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should be the exact same thing, and right now it's not under most digital retailing. So
Great. I know a lot of our audience is probably sitting here going, I want to get involved in digital retailing, and there's many people out there promoting some form of a platform. I've heard people say that it's just another form of lead gen at this point, given the compliance or technical inabilities that some of these companies have. Where do you see digital retail going, and how far away are we from the utopia of literally transacting online and letting customers come in, those that want to, or those that say, I want to come this far, and then I want to come into the store and I want to work with a dealership professional.
Right. So going back to our experience building our own loan origination system and getting applications online, doing that decisioning, submitting it directly to a lender through like a Route 1, and getting that decision back, and then doing contracts and having the customer sign. That's really done. We actually have finished that. We haven't launched it to the marketplace because of some of the e-contracting issues.
Sure.
Where if we can't complete the whole e-contracting online, where you e-contract some of it, but then you have to do a wet signature, that's a disconnect.
Sure.
So we want to make sure we can do the whole complete. So there are some technological issues and some compliance issues that are out there that we still have to get through. But actually doing from an end to end, the technology piece is done. And,
Gotcha.
And but we want to make sure that it's working properly and it's tested properly, compliance and all that, because that compliance is always changing.
Sure.
When we first started doing, to give you an example, on the eBay, the buyer and the seller, almost 90% of the time, we're never in the same state.
Yeah.
So it was all virtual.
Yep.
Nobody ever saw anybody. And they were buying cars sight unseen. Now, we did the inspections and all that. So consumers will buy cars sight unseen, especially new, because you know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Used is a little harder to deal with inspections and all, but it has been done. And I think we will... Again, if you don't do that credit first, then you end up with a disconnect, and it's not going to be end-to-end online.
Sure, sure. What would you say that you hear in the marketplace from dealer professionals that are saying, I would love to start some form of hybrid digital retailing solution? What are their fears, and what are the obstacles that either are perceived or real for them?
Mm.
Because we're at NADA 2020. There's a lot of technological innovation that's being presented in different forms and fashions. Many dealers have paid hundreds, even thousands for software that was going to change their world. And, I would say that they're probably sitting there skeptical saying, I want to know that this is going to add more vehicle sales, more to my bottom line. But there's some fear and maybe some tangible experiences. What would you say some of those obstacles are that you've heard that maybe are able to be overcome?
Yeah. So there are a couple.
Yeah.
I'll take the last one first that you were talking about, and that is what we have seen is dealers trying multiple different digital retailing solutions
Sure.
with the same results. So now they're like, maybe this really isn't what it's all cracked up to be.
Sure.
But the other issue is there's many different people in the dealership, whether it's the owner, manager, the internet manager,
Mm-hmm.
that have different ideas, in the F&I, right? The finance manager,
Sure.
all have different thoughts on what digital retailing should be and how far it should go. I remember talking to a dealer probably 5 years ago about our digital retailing, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want to go there."
Sure.
Right? Because it's the unknown, and the thought is we might lose control of the deal. Although what we've been able to show is that with our digital retailing, the front end profit's higher and the back end profit's higher, because when you focus on the payment, the price is irrelevant.
That's true.
And we've shown where you could have 5 cars with the same monthly payment with all kinds of different pricing, from anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. They could still all have the same payment.
Sure.
So, but the dealers are gradually so they were resistant at first. Then they're like, okay, let's try this because my competitor's doing it. I better get in there and do it.
Sure.
And then they're finding out, wow, that didn't work for us. I just had a dealer yesterday, and I'm not going to name the company because we don't do that, but they're like, yeah, we tried this and it just didn't work for us. And what we try to do is, whether the dealer works with us or not, we try to educate them on why and what they should be looking for, because whether you use us or somebody else, what we really want to do, and with being in the industry for so long, we want to make sure the dealers and the consumers, it's a win-win for everybody.
Sure.
Okay. And the only way to do that is to really have open, honest conversations. Now, there's a lot of technology companies out there, whether it's the DMSs, the CRMs, and all of that really need to play, and even the OEMs. Even the OEMs now are starting to dictate what technology dealers can use.
Yes.
And the problem with that, I know you want to have control over what's being done, and I think guidelines are good, right? OEMs should definitely have guidelines on how it's marketed and that, but by doing that, you're eliminating potential new technology to come into the market space. So,
Yeah.
But back to the dealers, it's educating them and having a real good conversation. I love going and talking to dealers because, like I said, each one has a different thought of how digital retailing should be, and they're not seeing the results. So now they're kind of like, whoa, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing.
It's funny you say that. In the conversations we've had, both with F&I being, a function of the transactional process, what we found is that there's two things. The resource allocation for those that want to come through a digital retailing process, meaning the human capital. Does that go through my BDC? Does that go through my traditional F&I office, right? And then the other one is the income preservation of what they've always seen going through a traditional retail experience. What is your opinion on setting up the right resource process as well as that income preservation or goal congruency?
So that's something we're focusing on. As a matter of fact, at the conference at NADA 2020 here, we're focused on helping our dealers be able to take, and we talked about leads, because ultimately it still is a lead.
Sure.
If you look at all the digital retailing, it's still a lead.
Yeah.
And what happens to that lead once it's generated is where I'm seeing personally a breakdown at the dealership level across many, many different dealerships. It's either the BDC or it's the sales round robin. And what I'm seeing as from talking to dealers is I'll go through the leads with them, and these are leads that are credit, the vehicle selected, the credit's qualified, they've selected the payment. They're done. These are done deals.
They've even set an appointment.
They've even set an appointment.
That's right.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
And I talked to the dealers through some of these, and the BDC center, they read me what the transcript or the email was, and it's like a total disconnect.
Sure.
So I think what we need to see at the dealership level is when you have a digital retailing lead that is more than just a name and address
Sure.
and the type of car, right? Because that's what most dealers are used to getting, and those are not exciting.
No.
Right? So we kind of like to equate our leads to the Glengarry leads, right? You've seen that movie.
That's right.
Because those are the leads that they really want to work, but they have to be done differently. You can't just have a disconnect with the deals. The lead deal is there, and then they're talking about, oh, well, we've got great financing. Well, I'm already past that, right? So that is a turnoff. So dealers got to do a better job of really personalizing the communication with the customer, and you got enough information there to build that. You see all this, including the credit bureau that we provide, and so when you call that customer, you've got a lot to talk about.
Sure.
To make that connection, and that's what I see the dealers struggling with. Even the dealers that use our product, they're struggling with that, and so we're kind of focused on that process after.
So you brought up a good point about process. We've all been in the automobile industry for a long time. The road to the sale is the famous way that we've sold cars for years and years and years. And with the advent of the internet departments, I remember how there was even an aversion to maybe modifying that road to the sale when consumers would inquire about a car online. What's your opinion of the road to the sale as it relates to digital retailing? Does it need to be augmented or changed, or what's your opinion there?
Yeah, and it needs to be changed in a way where the shopper can feel confident that what they're doing online and the self-desking, looking at the vehicle, I'm qualified, I can play with the down payment, I know my tax, title, and licenses are included. I just feel like I'm in more control, even though the dealer sets the parameters around that control. But it's a much easier and better experience for that shopper to be able to just, hey, I was able to just do this like I can do Amazon or whatever.
Right.
And then have that then go into the dealership and be the same thing.
You said something offline, taking a shopper and making them a buyer. And I think that's something that resonated with me about what digital retailing is truly doing, is creating buyers out of shoppers.
Well, it can once you get them on the right car.
Right.
So that's the key. The digital retailing is more about transacting and not the shopping. I mean, you can hunt and peck,
Sure.
right, through all the different cars and look at payments and that sort of thing, and then finally maybe find something. But truly being able to quickly get the shopper to the right vehicle and inventory so that they can raise their hand and say, okay, I'm ready to buy it. That is what we're really, Affinitive did a study on that just end of last year, about how dealer websites are needing that, helping the shopper find the vehicle.
Sure. We've talked a lot about how the advent of digital retailing is moving from more educational into transactional. I think this information is very helpful. If there's a dealer group, lender, how would they go about working with TruPayments today?
Well, it's a matter of just contacting us, and we like to do more. We like to look at each dealer differently and each lender and try to understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. Because there's not a cookie cutter approach for a lender or a dealer. each dealers we talked about. Some have BDC centers, some have round robin sales people doing the leads. So you have to look at what is it they're trying to accomplish as far as demographics, and so that we have the right marketing message to drive them into a shopping experience that lands them on the right car. And I give you a perfect example. And as a lender, we would have a customer that would contact us through our original lease compare site, and they did all back then. There was no soft pulls credit. It was more of self credit, which
Sure.
is what a lot is being done now. But here's what happens with that. They do all their research. They want to buy a Corvette, and they're all excited, and then they apply, and we find out that, well, they're not approved, and they should have been looking at a Camaro, not a Corvette. So with Shop by Payment, we're able to make sure that we're setting the right expectation of what a shopper should buy. Now, I'm not talking about everybody, because there's a 10% that can buy anything they want, and they're just looking for that specific car. But with the quality of vehicles today, most consumers are open to, I need to buy, it's what I need for me to manage my personal or my day-to-day life.
Sure. Sure.
And that's what I'm focused on trying to get. Not, hey, I need to get a Ford or a Chevy or whatever, right? So what we want to try to do is make sure that we're helping those shoppers get to the right vehicle as quickly as possible.
TruPayments, LLC, Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot of great information today, and that's one of the things that this forum allows is for education and answering questions. We appreciate your time today. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Mike.